Well, hello, Blessed Family Recovery Summit participants. I have with me Amber Hollingsworth, and lots of you have shown up because of her YouTube channel, Put the Shovel Down. She is a master addictions counselor, and this creation of Put the Shovel Down has helped so many people. So welcome, Amber.
Thanks for having me. So happy to be here.
Now, folks, we cannot see you, unfortunately. There's no way to be on this platform and see you. So, throw your name and tell us where you're from. Have you been watching Amber for 5 years, for 3 years? Don't know who she is. But one of the things that Amber is really, really good at is what I would call Ask Amber. She's been doing some lives for a long time and is super humble about it. I was watching one the other day and she's reading the comments going, oh, I forgot there were comments. For a long time, I was here by myself. And that seems to be what has begun to really resonate with people is her down-to-earth style, her very clear and direct answers, and her deep, over 20 years experience working with families, and you work with both families and folks with addiction.
That's right. Yep.
Awesome. Tell us, as people are rolling in, tell us a little bit more about how your center works and the people that you help.
Sure. Well, for the first 10 years of my counseling career, I like to say when I was a baby counselor, I worked in a treatment center. It was a private psychiatric hospital, and they did like detox, but they also had like mental health units. Basically, they would see the most severe or most acute crises having to do with mental health and or addiction. I did that for like 10 years, and that experience for me was just priceless. You got to see anything and everything, and you got to see a lot of it. So I felt like it was like right in the deep ends of the water. But one of the things I learned from that experience was that even though there's some help out there for people looking for help for addiction and recovery, there's almost no help out there for the families. When I worked in the hospital, families would be calling. I would literally hate to come in on Mondays and see my, you know, telephone. It was one of those like, like office kind of telephones with all the buttons, and the light would be blinking. And I would know on Mondays there would be like so many messages, like basically telling me what their addicted loved one had done over the weekend. Like I was the principal. It's almost like I got all these calls. And if it was after a holiday, oh my goodness, it was really bad. And the thing of it is these families would call, they're the ones that actually were desperate for help. They were like, please, what can we do? What do we do? They like wanted to hear from you. They wanted some advice. But in a lot of ways, working in a facility, your hands were tied because you have like all these confidentiality rules for one. Some patients wouldn't even sign for you to be able to talk to their families. It's just very complicated. And what I saw over and over was pretty much the families would get, maybe depends on the program, like a 1 hour workshop for families, or like if it was a big long 30, 60, 90-day treatment, maybe even like a weekend families workshop, right? And other than that, all they got was like a pamphlet to Al-Anon, which I'm a fan of Al-Anon. That's nothing against Al-Anon, but people were in crisis. They're like, oh my gosh, like you're sending my loved one home for detox. What the heck do I do? And I tell you all that backstory to help you understand that's how my practice was born. So when I first started seeing individual clients, I was getting more of the same. I would see clients, and then instead of my phone, mostly it'd be my email though. I would look at my email, and there would just be like giant long letters telling me everything that happened over the weekends. I would get like spreadsheets, literally with like timelines of it was like so crazy. And I was just like, it was sort of two things. One, I was like, these families are desperate for some help. No one is helping them. Two, I have so much I want to tell them, but I like can't. So all those experiences sort of combine into, at the time, Campbell's, a lot of people know Campbell. She's one of our family counselors. She's got 2 sons in recovery. She was with me. She was an intern. And I finally said on one of those emails, I said, can you come in and talk to Campbell? Because Campbell knew the situation, and I thought, we're going to tag team this. Campbell's going to see the family member, and I'm going to see the person with the addiction, and we're going to treatment team about it. That way they have a person who can talk to them and advise them, but that's not going to be like giving up confidentiality, private information, and I can keep my alliance with my person. And that is the beginning of the Hope for Families model. So the way we do it now is, or the way we have done it for the past 10 years, is that when we see people with addictions, we see the whole family system. We call it lawyering. I'm the one that usually sees the person with the addiction, and I have other counselors, family specialists who see the family members, the parents, the spouses, the siblings, whoever it is. And that way, everybody gets their advocate. Because in these situations, it's a big hot mess. There's a lot of tension. We don't even like to put the whole family in the same room until like several sessions in to make sure we can even be in the same room. So that is our model. Everybody gets an advocate. The family gets seen just as much as the addicted person gets seen. And we try to take these families and get everybody working in the same direction. And believe it or not, everybody likes it. You would think the people with the addictions wouldn't like their family involved, but they love it. They come in my office, they're like, Amber, you need to tell Campbell to tell my mama, blah, 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 quit reading my journal. And I said, I will do that. Hold on, I'm going to go down the hall and tell, they love it. And actually it works really well for both sides because both sides feel like they're being heard and advocated for, which is what's happening. That was a long story, I know, but I had to give you the whole
that's awesome. And for those who haven't been in the therapy realm, explain why when you picked up the phone and you're like, I've got so much I could tell them, why you couldn't tell them, why you had to hold your tongue.
Well, there's some like legal reasons, which is people that are in treatment have confidentiality with their treatment providers, their doctors, nurses, counselors. And so you can only tell what they've authorized you to tell. But even beyond that, you don't want your client, to see you as some kind of secret spy for the family, because typically when it comes to addiction, it's like us against them kind of mentality. I know it shouldn't be that way, but it is, especially in the beginning. And so it's like, how do I keep my alliance with this person, but help the family feel heard at the same time? And you just run into this wall of how do you help meet everyone's needs at the same time?
So this double therapist model allows you to do that and allows you to get everybody involved. Go just a little bit deeper on why the person with the addiction is so excited to have the family involved.
Well, they're not at first until they see how it's going to work. At first, they're not excited about anything because most of the people that come in to see my office historically have been sort of like leveraged in or tricked or dragged in to come and see me. And so once they do see me for a session or two and they see that I'm actually on their side, I'm actually going to listen to them and I'm going to hear their frustrations and I'm going to actually see if I can do something about it when that's possible. I'm like, let me take care of that for you. Then they love it. They're like, wow, they don't expect that. What they expect is to come to my office and for me to say, I know what you've been doing and you're ruining your life and you're destroying your family and what kind of mother, father are you? Like that's what they expect. And that's not what they get at all.
You shared something with me that even surprised you when we were doing the interview, that when the families actively work with Campbell and work the program, even if their loved one is not in process yet, what does the loved one begin to do? You said you were getting calls.
Yes. So, and this was surprising to me, and it still is surprising to me, even though I see it happen over and over. But you hear this saying that you have to sort of do recovery for yourself. And I'm not really completely on board with that. I say there's no bad reason to recovery. Any reason you got, I'm taking it. But people, like, let's say most of our calls come from the family members, to be honest. And some of those family members, their addicted loved ones, they don't even know how to get them to come to counseling. So the first thing we have to do is figure out how to get them to come. Occasionally we would get calls from the addicted person themselves saying, hey, I got your name, or I saw you on YouTube, or something like that. I want some help. What we find is that the people who come in whose families are involved have actually better chances of getting and staying sober than the people who called themselves. Like traditionally in addiction recovery, you hear that you have to want it for yourself, you have to make all the calls and all that. And it's not so much that the people making the calls don't want it, but when it comes to addiction recovery, your willpower is going to ebb and wane. Your motivation, your desire is going to come and go. There are going to be good days and bad days. And if you don't have that family system being there and supportive and knowing how to do the right things, the helpful things, then they fall through the cracks. So what we find is that people who have a motivated, involved, engaged family have better outcomes, even if they were in denial when it started, even if they didn't even want to come to counseling when it started. They have better outcomes than the people who actually pick up the phone and call themselves who don't have family involved.
When we talked, I asked you to do lies, manipulation, and covert conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just open this up for the folks that I can see in Napuni. If you could shoot me those on our app, that would be awesome. If there are questions in the audience, Amber is more than willing to answer them. You're going to be amazed at how she answers these questions. Be like, wait, I could use that. So pop those in and we'll do those. But we were talking about lies, manipulation, and covert conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with lies. What do you do when you know the lying is happening? You know for certain. How do you behave?
Well, first of all, if someone is actively in an addiction, there's lying happening. End of story. Sometimes I put videos on YouTube and I talk about this, and then I get comments that say, not everyone's addiction lies. I'm like, first of all, everyone lies, period. Okay. And for sure, everyone has an addiction lies. So there's definitely lying happening. As far as how you handle that, you need to think strategically about what is it you're trying to make happen, right? If it's like I'm trying to get my loved one out of denial, or I'm trying to hold my boundary, or what is the goal here? Because calling someone out on their lie is not always in alignment with your goal. And that can be really hard because if you're like me, your ego is like, oh, you think you're slick, you're not getting that over on me, I got attitude. So we want to say, I know what's up, I know what you're doing, but that's not always in the best interest of the goal. So most of the time, I know it's going to be shocking people, but I say, let them lie. Let them think that they're manipulating you. Let them think that they're ahead. I let clients do it to me. They think they're running the show, and I'm just waiting strategically for the right things in the right moment. So you got to pick and choose when you call that out and how you call that out.
Give us an example of calling it out, because I really like your no longer being the bad guy method.
So when I do it, I usually have I would never do it if I didn't have a good relationship with someone. So that's first. You really got to have some kind of rapport, some kind of something there. And then as long as that's there, when I do it in a way that's like, are you sure? Is there more to that story? Or you could say, I'm having a hard time with that one. I'm not completely convinced. Keep trying to convince me. Or I'll say, oh, that's a nice try. So I'm kind of funny with it. I'm a little bit sarcastic. I say it kind of in a teasing way, or I say it in a humble way. And I could say, well, I could totally have this wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe this result is wrong, or your mama could be lying for sure, but this is what she said, So I leave some room for error, is what I call it, when I do call someone out. And that gives them a chance to tell their side of the story. So from family members' perspective, you can say, I know I'm probably overly sensitive, but here's what I'm thinking. You can say, I know I'm a little crazy lately, but I'm believing this. I'm probably not even true. Help me get on board here. And so what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm not believing that totally. Here's your chance to fill in the gaps, right? And you're saying it funny. Or you can even say, yeah, no, that's not true. And then just keep walking. What you don't want to do is you don't want to say, are you high? Have you been drinking? Did you go to JoJo's house yesterday when you told me you went? Because if you ask the question immediately and reflexively, they're going to tell you the lie. I mean, I know it's not right. I'm not advocating for lying, but like they almost can't help it. It's just, and we all kind of do that. Sometimes you're just caught red-handed. You say, no, I didn't do it. And then it settles in, and then sometimes you can come around to the truth. But there is the way that you do it that's important.
That's awesome. So we have a question. I think you answered the latter half of it. how do you know when is the right moment? And then how do you call them out? So I think we just finished how you call them out, but when is the right moment?
It's hard for me to explain that because it's a little bit of a feel. Sometimes working with clients of addictions, it's almost like dancing with someone. It's like a feel. And you got to know the person really well. Like I said in the beginning, you have to have enough rapport with them to do it and it be helpful or effective in any way. What you're trying to do when you call them out is you're trying to give them a chance to sort of own up to what's happening for them, not for you. For them to be able to say and get it off of their chest, yeah, I did do that. So it's kind of like when you know that they need to admit it to see something either for themselves or because you know they're struggling inside. If it's just trying to get them to admit it for your own purposes, you can do that, but it doesn't really get you any further in your goal, which is usually either to get them out of denial or get yourself out of the relationship sometimes, like you just got to think through what am I trying to make happen here.
So we also have a lot of fan mail showing up.
Yeah.
Couple things, really clear things. We've got one that said, I quit the counselor who kept trash talking my adult daughter who had substance use disorder. I know you don't want to say anything negative about other people in your profession, but how would you choose somebody to connect with?
That's actually a really great experience, and that's a common thing. And I'm glad that that came up. I'm not sure who said it, but I'm glad that you said that, whoever you are. That's actually very common. And it's not because that counselor is a bad counselor. It's because that counselor is on your side. And it's kind of like when you're telling a friend somebody treats you bad. That friend, we're going to take your side because it makes us mad. And even in my practice, the way we do it, and we have had to learn this the hard way. If I only listen to the addicted person, I think all y'all are the worst, most controlling, crazy, bad words that you could imagine. And I would believe it, even though I know better. I believe every time because they believe it. Same thing for the family members. The the family members, if when they're talking to their counselor, you're only presenting a very one-sided point of view, and your counselor's just there to align with you and there to sort of see your side and there to have your back. And so if you're going to see a counselor and you're complaining about your addicted loved one, at best they're going to say, well, you should have a healthy boundary or try this, but mostly they're going to say, you know, they're going to say it more professionally, but they're going to be saying it one way or the other, like, should get your butt out there. That's not right. You don't need to be putting up with that. They're going to say it more professional than I would say it, but they're going to be, saying that to you because you're telling them all the bad stuff and they're protective of you, honestly.
So the next comment that's coming up is empathy. Empathy, and it's a long one, so I'm kind of filtering it. Being able to show empathy and not tough love, but also to know not to get caught in the manipulation.
Right. Right. So what you're saying is I think if there's a question here, it's like, how am I empathetic and understanding, but also not falling into some bull, basically, and being manipulated. Is that kind of the gist
That's
of it?
it's a long one, so I'm kind of paraphrasing. It's what she's saying is you helped her understand that. So how do you look at, like you said, some people would say, oh, you need to throw them out, you need to close the door, you need to do that, but that's not how you set up your plan. How does that work for you and your practice?
Well, there's just really a lot to that question. I want to start with the empathy part, and then we'll move to the manipulation part, and then if you'll remind me, because I probably get distracted and lost somewhere in there, then we'll come around to the you need to leave part. So the empathy part is this. This is strategic empathy. This is empathy, like almost like a counselor move type of empathy. You may not feel all that empathetic in your heart, and sometimes even it's hard to feel that empathetic when somebody's ruining their life and ruining yours too. But you want to see their point of view on things, because when you can verbalize and show empathy to someone, it actually activates the learning part of their brain. It actually allows that frontal lobe, which is like not getting a lot of juice when someone's in active addiction. So we need all of it we can get. It activates that part of their brain that lets them think through the situation critically. So if they screw up, if they relapse, if they come in, like if a client comes in and they tell me like, oh my God, like my wife asked me not to drink on Christmas, but I snuck around and was pretending I wasn't drinking, but I was sneaking vodka out the trunk of the car. And then I like was a disaster and I ruined the whole family Christmas. Now, I could come at that a couple ways. I can say, I told you not to do that, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to help. I can say, oh, God, that's terrible. I know you feel awful. You're so embarrassed. That must be, this is just terrible. And I know you would never even to do that. What's going to happen is they're going to say, I know, and I shouldn't have done that, and I should have just done it. They're going to actually start to think through and learn from the lesson. If you come at them with
she's coming back.
Some kind of I told you so, or you shouldn't have, or you're bad in some kind of way, then their brain immediately just goes to being defensive because you're activating the emotional part of their brain. So strategically, you are doing this for a very scientific, strategic reason, and that's because you want them to learn their lessons. So when something bad happens to them, you don't want to get on their case. That's the worst thing you can do, because when something bad happens to them, that's where the lessons to be learned are. If you come in and jump in on their case, all they're going to think is how mean and controlling you are. And that means they're not going to be thinking about the mistake that they made. It's kind of like this. It's like if my kid comes home and he's failed his math test, and even though I told him all week you need to study for that math test and he didn't do it, and he comes home and I say, well, I told you all week long to study for that math test, all he's going to be thinking is you don't get it and you don't understand. And you know what kids think, right? If I say, oh man, that sucks. Like, I remember I almost failed geometry when I was in high school too. Like, I'm not good at math either. Then he's going to think, and most times say, I know, I knew it, but I didn't, right? The learning is going to take place. So strategically, that is why you do the empathy. Don't worry so much about whether or not you're being manipulated, because that's not really what you're worried about. You already know the truth. You know you're not being manipulated. What you're really worried about is, does that person think that I don't know the truth, right? That's what you're really worried about. And so that's really more your own ego. So don't let your own ego get in the way. If you're not overly worried about that they know that you know, you're just not going to get trapped in that. It's not going to be as big of an issue, right? Once you realize, like, I'm 5 steps ahead of this. That's what I like to say on my channel. Oh, I know what you're doing. And I'm not even concerned about what you did today. I'm concerned about what's going to happen 5 steps down the road. I'm standing there at that stop sign waiting for you because I know that's where you're headed. Then you're not worried about what's happening right here today. You've got to get ahead of it. You're fighting every single little fire, every single thing that happens. You just stay in this constant battle and you're not going to get anywhere. So don't worry about if they're trying to manipulate you, because you know what's up. You're not being manipulated. They can think whatever they want to think. You're being strategic. Hopefully, does that help a little bit?
Absolutely. I always love the math test example, because it is, if you get on their same side, then you'll figure out what's going on, as opposed to being frustrated with them. The last little piece was, do you just kick them out? That's kind of old style to say, not dealing with you anymore.
Sometimes you do that, and it's, if there's a major safety issue going on, if somebody is abusing you, if somebody is stealing money from you every time you turn your back, if somebody is abusing your kids, they need to go. And that is, so therapeutically, that's what I would tell you needs to happen. And I'm not saying they need to go forever, but they need to not be living in your house. You need to be in a safe environment. Now, I get that most people with addictions are not pleasant. They're difficult to some degree. They're grumpy. They may be on some level abusive, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, if it's not safe, don't have them in your house. Don't have somebody in your house that's like, y'all know what I mean. So they need to go. Other than that, if you're going to get them out of the house, and that's not always the worst thing, what you want to do is you want to set up a system that makes them have to sort of put themselves out of the house. You know, like if it's your kid, and Campbell's really good at this, it's like, all right, in February, we're going to start charging rent, and you're going to be moderately reasonable about it. You're going to let them work themselves into a situation to be out of your house. The reason why you want to do it that way is if what you're trying to accomplish by having them leave your house is for it to be a wake up call, if you just throw them out, it's not going to be a wake up call, because again, all they're going to think is, I can't believe, my own wife, my own mom, my own brother, they're just going to like make you the bad guy. They're not going to learn the lesson. So if that's going to happen, if they need to leave the house, you've got to come up with some kind of plan where they sort of back themselves into that corner and have to remove themselves whenever possible.
Awesome. We have more. We're going to end with this one, and then we've got some giveaways to do, including, and I'll let you talk about this in a minute, including a year-long membership. Now, here's how we've set this up. We gave away one to everybody who got the free tickets yesterday. Now we're working with the people with the VIP, so they have a really good shot of grabbing this. There's a lot less of them. We're gonna let you pick the number. I'll give you the range and you pick the number. If you're okay with that, I can put it in my wheel spinner if that makes you say, oh, I don't want to pick somebody over anybody else.
No, I don't want to pick. That'll be fun.
Okay. So this is how do you stop being reactive and explosive when they are accusing you when you are doing nothing wrong? It's their guilt. That sounds like a lot of awareness right there.
Right. It really depends on the context. Sometimes you just need to leave the room, the conversation, because somebody's being irrational and they're just trying to start a fight with you. It's a manipulation tactic, and they're just trying to get your goat. Like they're just trying to get you mad and angry to say mean, hateful stuff because they're trying to put you in the bag I roll. I call it a fish hook. They're just like fishing to make you angry, and don't bite the fish hook. Other times, if you need to call it out for other reasons, then I say use a process comment. So what that means is if they're arguing with you about whether or not you took out the trash, whatever it is, whether or not you snooped in there, whatever, instead of getting into the dialogue about the actual thing that they're saying, go one level up and talk about the process of what's happening between you and them. What that means is you can say, I feel like you've done something wrong, but all of a sudden you're trying to deflect the conversation onto me. So you're talking about what's happening versus the content of what they're trying to say. So you're going one level up. Or you can say something like, you know what, if it's valid, any validity, y'all, because sometimes they'll just bring up every bad thing you ever did in the past, and maybe it was bad, but they're bringing it up right now as a deflection. Then you can say something like, you know what, you're right. I'm perfectly willing to talk about that. That wasn't a great move on my part, but right now we're talking about this. So it's how do we keep it on track and not go into those rabbit holes?
Especially not doing that deflecting. That's my favorite one when me is, oh, we're going over here.
Mm-hmm. And the more you talk, the more ammunition you're giving them to like go down all these other rabbit holes. It's kind of like anything you say can and will be used against you. So.
Yes, that's the lawyering part.
Yeah.
Amber, let's do. We've got some door prizes to do first.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that now. One of the things I want to throw up real quick is the schedule, and this is where my technology skills are not the best. Hang on just a minute. Let's see if I can do this. So for all of you wonderful people watching, okay, hopefully we can see my screen. I think we can. Yeah, This is the schedule. Amber was part of our day one adventure. I believe the day one is still open for the free ticket holders. So if you want to grab her, you need to go back and look at it right now because we're fixing to take that down. Now we have an all access pass that you can keep this plus a podcast plus all kinds of bonuses that go with that. And I can show you a little bit more about those for a whole year. But this is the day we're into right now. We're doing emotions today. So we're doing emotional detox. We have the feelings translator. We have grief. We have joy. We have overwhelm. And we're even talking about sugar because that can be a big thing. But shame, what we were just talking about, shame and guilt, we've got that going on. So these are all happening today. And then tomorrow, this section is a lot about how to work with your children, especially teens. Lindsay's going to talk about younger kids, interfamily systems, and Tanja is an advocate. She is all over the state of Louisiana and talking about how you can help children, plus community pieces from Jarrell, Tony, and Nico. So I really invite you to join. And I don't want to leave out that this is called the Blessed Family Recovery Summit on purpose. I would say everyone in this group has a higher power. Now, how they choose to focus on that is up to them, as it is up to you. But we've added in a prayer section. They want to pray over you. Those are all available for you. And please take advantage of this. You can skip around and watch the ones you want to watch. If looking for overwhelm is your cup of tea, join in there with Anna and make sure that you watch that one. But if you want to catch Amber's, and it was really good, let me tell you, you need to do that today. So hop on and grab that one, or grab the All Access Pass. And I'm not even sure I can share that right now. But my computer's been acting crazy with all this work we've been doing. So that's in there. Let's take that down and see if I can do that. So if you want to do that, please hop on, do that. And what we'd like to do today is, if you are on this call, we have already raised the price for the All Access Pass because it keeps going like that. You can do the early bird. But if you are on this call and send us in a message that says, I saw Amber, we will drop it back to our regular, our pre-summit price, which is $47. And you're getting over $700 worth of bonuses. Plus you can keep all this and listen to it, because I tell you what, Amber produces videos like no other all the time. I can't keep up with it. So it's amazing. So if you're watching on her channel, or if you're watching on my channels, or if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and put in saw Amber on the summit. If you put that in there, we're going to send you a coupon. You can click on that All Access Pass and get that. Because I'll tell you another thing, we're going to raffle one more year-long membership tomorrow for Amber's program. Okay. And we are going to get all your names in there. We'll make sure that everybody has an opportunity to do that. So before we raffle your program, we have some door prize winners. And let me tell you what we've got for those folks. So we're actually going to let you choose. Right now, we will send you an email and let you choose these. But our winners are Terry, Ashley, Colleen, Sharon, and Deanne. I think it's Deanne. I think I'm right. Hopefully I'm right. But we will get in contact with you, and you will be able to choose. We have a master class from, or a master journaling class from Flawthentically Me. So knowing that you have flaws, but you're authentic. We have 2 copies of Soul Broken, which is a guide for your journey through ambiguous grief, which, if you're not listening to that, that's grief when somebody has not died. So maybe you've got a loved one who has pretty much checked out with addiction, and she really talks about hope in there. It's a really positive book. And then I have an advanced facial analysis, which helps you cover your strengths, and what she's really good at managing what's going on just by looking at your face. It's amazing. And then the last thing that I have is I have 4 copies of When the Solution Becomes the Problem. And this is by Dr. Mike Barnes, and he's done all kinds of work as far as how to help the family, because his program is very much like Amber's. If you missed him, he's on day 1 too. In the fact that, hey, if we can support the family, there's much more chance of longer term sobriety. And then I do have one more thing. So our Feelings Translator has offered 3 memberships to the Big Feeling Masterclass membership. Laughter is truly the best medicine, and we're bringing you a masterclass that promises both smiles and strategies. So the 5 of you, we're going to send you out an email. You pick one, and we'll get you hooked up with all that. We will be doing door prizes tomorrow. So I had a comedian on earlier. We did a little drum roll. We need you, Amber, to pick a number between 2 and 40. And these are the all access prize pass winners who have the opportunity to win your year-long program. But before that, tell us a little bit more about your year-long program.
Sure. We have a paid membership community. It's like a coaching community is what it is. And so there's a lot of advanced skills training in there. There's a whole section just for parents who are dealing with an addicted child, and that can be an adult child, obviously. And there's a whole section for partners, for advanced skills. There's advanced recovery skills, all kind of training in there. But the best thing is that there's live group coaching every week. So my family specialist, Kim and Campbell, they come on live every week. You get a private call. It's kind of like a Zoom call where you can show up and you can ask questions about your specific situation and get feedback. If you can't come to the call, you can submit your questions early and say, hey, this is the question I wanted answered. And then those calls are always like available. Just only the members can see them. But if you're a member, you can go back and you can watch them and see the answer to your question and other people's questions too. So that we're going to be giving away 3 total. We did one yesterday, or you did one yesterday, right? And then there's one today. That's what we're about to do now. One tomorrow. Year-long membership to that. So you guys are going to love that. The members in there, they're just great, and they're having a lot of successes, and they have the best questions every week. I'm glad Kim and Kim were in there taking those questions.
So this is for a year, and you get to interact with Amber's community and Kim and Campbell. I know Kim and Campbell, who are the family specialists. You're going to get the answers you need, just like Amber was answering here. You're going to get the ask those questions straight up. So this is really a fabulous opportunity to get what you need from somebody who has been doing this a long time.
And one of the things that's so helpful about it is, like, I do live calls like this. I use the same software, so I can answer questions like people in the chat. But what's great about the live group coaching calls is it's really a little bit more like Zoom, like the way you and I are talking. You can hop on there and talk and ask your question, because a lot of times when people ask me the questions in the sidebar in the chat, I don't have enough information to give them the best answer. And you guys saw some of that today. I'm like, well, it depends on the context. So if you were like on here with me, then I could say, well, give me an example, or I could ask you a couple more questions so you get like a really good, more specific answer. So it's very helpful.
Absolutely. Please go back and watch Amber's interview today, because that's what she did with me. I was throwing out some examples. She's like, give me a little more on that. Tell me a little bit more on that. I really felt heard and cared about, and that's what she's doing in her program for you that are joining that, so that you can support your loved one. All right, Amber, between 2 and 40, and that person is winning your year-long membership.
Well, the first number that popped in my head is 33.
All right, let's find out who is 33. Christine Cleary is 33. I haven't seen her on the call, but we will be sure and notify her, get her connected with you. Tomorrow, if you have, we'll pull her out of the pool. And if you have purchased the all access pass at back to the early bird special, you will be in this list, and we will be offering one more of those, plus other door prizes. I've got even more things to give away. And the thing that I like is choice. So we're going to give you the choice of, I want this one, I don't want that one, or, this works for me. So Amber, I can't thank you enough for being here. We can find you all over YouTube. Tell us the other places where you are and how to connect with you.
I am on Facebook. I do have a website called FamilyRecoveryAcademy.online. But honestly, the best place to find me is on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is called Put the Shovel Down.
Awesome. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much for all that you've done in this field, and how you have taken that early knowledge as the baby therapist and expanded that into this program.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.